Hello, how are you today? How's everyone doing out there? So, I don't know how many people actually want to talk about the state of the world today. I think that there's the potential for very good things to happen in the future for all of us. Even me, even you. We have gotten to a point in this country where the original ideas behind the democracy have played out in such a way that we kind of just have ended up back in a feudal system. And in fact, we don't really choose our own leadership. The fact that people say things like, you're choosing from the lesser of two evils, only illustrates the point that we are borderline dictatorship. Because if we were actually in a democracy, you wouldn't be choosing between these two predetermined choices. You would have part in the selection process all along the way. Additionally, what we call our political parties are not unified in their platforms. And honestly, in order to really encompass policy in a way that best reflects the needs and desires of the populace, you can't really handle it through political parties. People should be voting on a line-by-line basis what policies they want to have enacted, and not be tied up in the cult of personality at all. I mean, politicians are just another category of the entertainment industry at this point. And I thought that today, maybe we could talk about Esther, who was very wise, very diplomatic, and did much to help the cause of her people. So, after these things did King Ahasuerus. So, that is who Esther is married to, is the King Ahasuerus. He promoted Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and exalted him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were at the king's gate bowed their knees and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai, who is Esther's uncle, well, basically, Mordecai was his uncle's daughter. So she was kind of like a cousin, but he was the one raising her. Mordecai bowed not the knee, neither did reverence. Then the king's servants, which were at the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment? So he's showing political dissidence, but in a very minor way. Like if you think about, he's simply not showing what's considered to be the proper reverence according to what has been dictated by King Ahasuerus. Albeit they spake daily unto him, yet he would not hear them. Therefore they told Haman that they might see how Mordecai's matters would stand. For he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not the knee unto him, nor did reverence unto him, then Haman was full of wrath. Nor now he thought it too little to lay hands only on Mordecai, and because they had showed him the people of Mordecai, Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. In the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is the lot, before Haman, from day to day, and from month to month, unto the 12th month, that is the month Adar. Then Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, There is a people scattered and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, and they do not observe the king's laws. So that's the root of his issue with the Jewish people in this context, is that they are keeping their own ways separate from the larger kingdom. Therefore it is not the king's profit to suffer them. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver by the hands of them that have the charge of this business, to bring it into the king's treasury. Then the king took his ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the Jews' adversary. And the king said unto Haman, Let the silver be thine, and the people to do with them as it pleaseth thee. Then were the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman commanded, unto the king's officers, and to the captains that were over every province, and to the rulers of every people, and to every province, according to the writing thereof, and to every people according to their language. In the name of the king Ahasuerus was it written, and sealed with the king's ring. So that seems very unjust, to punish an entire group of people simply for not conforming to, well, the way that he's framing it is that they're not conforming to the governmental jurisdiction of the territory. But actually, it's kind of only like Mordecai is a dissenter. And perhaps there are other people who are also dissenters and who do not follow every edict of the king, but it's probably not based around ethnicity or religious background. I mean, Haman is a pretty terrible guy from what we've come to understand in the Bible. And lead by might, but not win the hearts of the people. Not like Esther, anyway. She really won the hearts of the people. And the king said unto Haman, Let the silver be mine. The letters were sent by post into all the king's provinces to root out, to kill and destroy all the Jews, both young and old, children and women, in one day upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to spoil them as a prey. I don't know if I'm even allowed to say that on YouTube. The contents of the writing was that there should be given a commandment in all provinces and published unto all people, that they should be ready against the same day. And the posts compelled by the king's commandment went forth, and the commandment was given in the palace at Shushan. And the king and Haman sat drinking, but the city of Shushan was in perplexity. I really love the Geneva Bible. That's the one that I read out of. I love the way that they put things. Now when Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out in the midst of the city, and cried with a great cry and a bitter. And he came even before the king's gate, but he might not enter within the king's gate, being clothed with sackcloth. So they could tell that he was not monetarily well off, and therefore would not be allowed to go see the king. Which, we're getting to that point again, are we not? And in every province and place whither the king's charge and his commission came, there was a great sorrow among the Jews, and fasting and weeping and mourning, and many lay in sackcloth and in ashes. Then Esther's maids and her eunuchs came and told it her. Therefore the queen was very heavy, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, and to take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not. So she was trying to, get him some nice clothes to wear so that he could be admitted to the palace. Then called Esther Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs, whom he had appointed to serve her, and gave him a commandment unto Mordecai, to know what it was and why it was. So the eunuch goes forth, and Mordecai told him all that which had come unto him. Also he gave him the copy of the writing and commission that was given at Shushan to destroy them, that he might show it unto Esther and declare it unto her. So then the eunuch comes back and he reports this to Esther. And Esther says unto Hathach, and commanded him to say unto Mordecai, all the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever man or woman that cometh to the king into the inner court, which is not called, there is a law of his that he shall die, except him to whom the king holdeth out the golden rod, that he may live. Now I have not been called to come unto the king these 30 days. And they certified Mordecai of Esther's words. And Mordecai said they should answer Esther thus: think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou holdest thy peace at this time, comfort and deliverance shall appear to the Jews out of another place. But thou and thy father's house shall perish. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time? So basically they're saying, if you choose not to do anything to help your people, Esther, at this time, probably they're going to be delivered by some other providence. But then you and your lineage will be destroyed. So Esther then says, go and assemble all the Jews that are found in Shushan, and fast for me, and eat not nor drink in 3 days, day nor night. I also and my maids will fast likewise, and so will I go in to the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. So basically, at that time it seems like, even though Esther is married to the king doesn't necessarily see her every day or even within the span of a month, apparently. And so she goes in to visit the king, even though she has not been summoned. So because he's the king, basically, you're supposed to be summoned by him to appear before him. That's how much power these people have over each other, which is ridiculous. But anyway, the king did, when he saw Esther standing there, she did find favor in his sight. So, what wilt thou, Queen Esther, and what is thy request? It shall be even given thee to the half of ye kingdom. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. So she's preparing a banquet so she can talk to Haman and the king under official circumstances. And then Haman makes to have Mordecai hung before the banquet is to take place. But King Ahasuerus is sleepless over this, and he decides to read Chronicles, which is also, here in the Bible, and it talks about a lot of the previous administrators that have come before him. There it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs, keepers of the door, who sought to lay hands on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said, "What honor and dignity hath been given to Mordecai for this?" And the king's servants that ministered unto him said, "There is nothing done for him." And the king said, "Who is in the court?" And the king's servants said, "Behold, Haman standeth in the court." And the king said, "Let him come in." And when Haman came in, the king said unto him, "What shall be done unto ye, man, whom the king will honor?" So basically, so the Chronicles he's talking about is basically the reporting that's going on in their court. So we have the Chronicles here in the Bible also that talks about a lot of the occurrences of, it's basically just the record keeping. So this part is then separate from this other part in the Bible, just to clarify, because I was a bit confused about that. So basically, what is happening here is the king is saying, hey, so this random person that you've never heard of before probably has ferreted out these two eunuchs of the court who were plotting against me. What reward should we come up with for this guy? And he says this to Haman. And then Mordecai, because it was Mordecai, Haman is like, "The man whom the king would honor, let them bring for him royal apparel, which the king used to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and that the crown royal may be set upon his head. And let the raiment and the horse be delivered by the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, and let them apparel the man whom the king will honor, and cause him to ride upon the horse through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king will honor." So then the king says, "Okay, we'll go do that to Mordecai." And so Haman does this, but then he goes home kind of in shame and covers his head. But he does have to come to the banquet now. And then they come to the banquet, and Esther states her petition and says, "If I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request." And then she also talks about how somebody's trying to kill her people, and the king knows. He talked to Haman about this, but he's all like, "Who is this guy, and who is presuming to kill your people?" And Esther's like, "Well, it's Haman. He's right here." And Haman, of course, is like, I better speak up for myself. And they had prepared that tree for Mordecai to be hung. So now they just hang Haman there. And Esther then sets Mordecai over the house of Haman and gives him all of Haman's things. And then, of course, King Ahasuerus puts forth an edict to protect the Jews from this genocide. And that's why around Purim, we eat those little triangle cookies, because that's Haman's hat. So, I like that story a lot. And I love how Esther did have to be very brave for the sake not just of her people, but of her guardian, the man who had raised her. And even though she's the queen, that doesn't necessarily mean that. It means that she does have a platform by which to speak to the king. But it doesn't necessarily mean that he's just going to do everything that she wants him to do. But King Ahasuerus could see that what the reality of the situation was, and how he would need to react. But things were dealt with in a really heavy-handed way a lot of times. There was a lot of killing of each other based on ethnicity and based on alliances. And the reason for doing that certainly was that if you completely eliminate a lineage, then those people will not be around to rise up against you at any point in the future. But I feel like we have entered a new era, and we would all be better served not to react to each other in this way moving forward. I think a lot, too, about our diplomacy with other nations and how there have been many conflicts that the United States should not ever have involved themselves with. And obviously, like, people think about Vietnam, but our country over the past 20 years has really gone into decline. And a big part of that is our meddling in foreign affairs and focusing our resources on that while Americans are really suffering. And anyone who is paying taxes in this country and not reaping the benefits of that really is owed a refund and an explanation. Additionally, I really have to reemphasize that the cult of personality surrounding politics in this country does an enormous disservice. I mean, it's like having influencers in office. They lie, they cheat. Politicians are the original influencers, and people eat it up. People just absolutely love to hate these people, instead of actually looking at the reality of the situation and how damaging it is to all of our lives. There's a certain greed in voyeurship as well. And we certainly live in the era of that. So I hope that perhaps some people in this Lent season will look at these things through a different perspective and look at it less through the lens of spectacle and more through the lens of improvement. And what can we all do to make things better moving forward? Well, this video is a little longer today. I guess that's all right. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you're all having a very blessed Lent season, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.